Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, in today's class, we are going to talk about doing discourse analysis. So far, we have discussed many theories regarding discourse analysis and critical discourse analysis, but in today's class, we are going to sum up the entire discussion of the whole semester, and we are going to talk about doing or carrying out a practical discourse analysis study or a practical critical discourse analysis study. So that is a major concern of today's lecture. In today's class, we'll talk about certain criteria for doing discourse analysis, and then we'll move to the stages of doing discourse analysis, and we'll discuss all these stages one by one. Okay, so starting with the very first one, that is criteria for doing discourse analysis. Now, being discourse analysts, if you want to carry out a research study in the field of discourse analysis, in the field of critical discourse analysis, we must fulfill certain criteria. Okay, so first of all, a discourse analyst must possess an idea about a piece of discourse, and that idea should be stated in the form of a research question, or usually in a research study there are two research questions minimum, and maximum can be 5 or 7 research questions can be there, but it depends upon the level of the students, the level of the researcher. So the very first criteria, that is having an idea about a piece of discourse. Idea means like you must have a perspective in your mind which you want to explore in a piece of discourse. Like you may analyze feminism or the exploitation of the female members of society in a piece of discourse. You may explore uh, racism in a piece of discourse. In the same way, you may adopt some political approach, some political perspective about a piece of discourse. You may go for the textual analysis. Simply textual analysis means like the presence or absence of the cohesive ties in the cohesive devices in a piece of discourse. So what I want to say is that first of all, you must possess an idea about a piece of discourse. Okay, the idea, it can be related to discourse analysis, or it can be related to critical discourse analysis. If it is related to critical discourse analysis, then the idea must be related to power relations. Okay, such as gender inequality, such as racial inequality, such as religious inequality, ethnic inequality. There can be so many perspectives. Simply, you will be having a particular ideology in your mind, and you will be trying to prove that ideology in, with the help of the discourse. Okay, you will make an attempt to explore that how has that ideology been presented and represented, produced and reproduced, or how has that ideology being been rejected with the help of that piece of discourse. So you must have an idea in your mind about a piece of discourse. That is the very first criterion. Okay, then that idea should be stated in the form of a research question or research questions, and this is what we are going to discuss later on in the stages of doing discourse analysis, how to pose a research question. Okay, though this is the concern of research methodology, another subject, but we'll have a brief discussion regarding this. Then the second criterion, that is a discourse analyst must know the importance and practical value of the question in a larger context. Like if your question is about gender inequality, or your question is about racial discrimination, or your question is about the ways in which the two different TV channels present certain event. Okay, so you must have a quiz, you must have an idea, as I told you, in the then that idea should be stated in the form of a question or research question. But keep in mind that that question must have some significance, some importance, some practical value in a larger context. Okay, you must be aware of significance of a research study. Okay, that how should a research study be significant? Okay, what should be its social significance, what should be its practical significance, what should be its epistemological significance, ontological significance, what should be multiple kinds of significance are there. Okay, practical, similarly contribution to the existing treasure of knowledge, some social significance, pedagogical significance may also be there. Okay, so you must keep in mind the practical value, the importance and the significance of the research question you are posing and of the idea, because your research question ultimately comes from the idea which you have in your mind about a piece of discourse. Okay, then the third criterion which a discourse analyst must fulfill is that he or she must know the appropriate discourse analytic techniques and their usage. Okay, the appropriate discourse analytic techniques, what sort of technique is to be used. Okay, so a discourse analyst must know about the techniques of doing discourse analysis and their usage as well. What sort of techniques? We have discussed so many theories so far, like we have talked about the theory of the model of us and them proposed by Van Dijk. We have talked about the three-dimensional model of CDA proposed by Norman Fairclough. Okay, we've talked about certain theories of discourse analysis, textual analysis as well. That is, uh, theme, rhyme, and thematic progression, cohesion, and coherence. So many theories we have discussed inside these topics. We have talked about conversational analysis as well, like turn taking, turn elocution, adjacency pairs, insertion sequences, error in repair. So many techniques we have talked about. These are, keep in mind, very few techniques we have discussed so far. There are many more, many other techniques are there. So techniques means like simply theoretical models, theories of practical for practical application, which the expert people in the field have suggested. So the, the discourse analyst must have an idea of the most appropriate discourse analytic techniques, and they must know, the discourse analysts must know how to use those techniques. Okay, practically how to utilize them, how to apply them to a piece of discourse, and how to analyze a piece of discourse with the help of that model or that theory. Okay, that technique simply. So that is the third criterion. The fourth one is that a discourse analyst must be familiar with and have access to the location from where the data is to be collected. Okay, usually discourse analysts collect data from TV or from newspapers. Okay, from simply from publicly available discourses. So that is simple, like there is no issue regarding that, there is no question of accessibility. Okay, like if you want to, for example, if you want to explore the representation of a particular event in a particular newspaper, a Pakistani newspaper, Indian newspaper, the English newspapers, the Western newspapers, so we can, nowadays people can easily access such kind of discourses with the help of internet, because e-newspapers are available on internet. Okay, similarly, uh, if you want to analyze the speeches of politicians, so the speeches are also nowadays available on YouTube and many other online sources. So but sometimes people have to collect data from people, okay, from a group of people which are not reachable. For example, if you want to collect data from the people of India or the people of Palestine or the people of United States of America, so it seems a bit difficult to collect data from those people because we cannot go there directly. Okay, for collecting the data only, then we may have some other ways, like we may collect the data online using email addresses or contacting those people with the help of social media such as Facebook, Messenger, etc. Multiple ways are there, but a discourse analyst, he must confirm first that he or she will be able to collect the data. Okay, one of my colleagues, she once collected data from the teachers of the University of Malakand. Okay, so she went over there and she collected the data, she recorded their interviews, and then later on she analyzed it. Okay, similarly, one of my friends, he went to the University of Peshawar, he collected data from there. So both the data, they were, about gender inequalities, because their studies, research studies, they were basically concerned with gender inequalities in Pashtun society. So they were sure, they had the surety, they were certain that they will go there and the data will be provided to them, and they did that. Okay, so you must first confirm that the data will be available. In case if the data is not available, and you should change your mind, you may change the sample, you may change the location, you may collect the data from some other location. Okay, so this sort of things have to kept in mind, have to be kept in mind while doing a particular discourse analysis. Then the fifth criterion is that a discourse analyst must be able and competent enough to collect the required data and analyze it. Okay, two type of competencies are required. Number one, competency, your competence for collecting the required data, and this is what we already discussed here. Okay, the second point, you must be competent enough to analyze the data. And how can you adopt this competency? Simply if you know of the appropriate discourse analytic techniques and the way they are used. If you know about these things, okay, you have sufficient knowledge and sufficient command over the application of such kind of techniques, then this criterion can be fulfilled easily. Okay, moving to the last one. uh, a discourse analyst must have sufficient time to collect and analyze the data and write the results. That is also very important. Uh, I have given you six tasks, okay, six assignments, six practical discourse analytic studies, okay, and you do not have that much time to go somewhere and collect data from there, because it may become difficult for you to manage these research studies in the allotted time as well as the allotted space as well. Okay, so now you have to work within the time allotted to you, and you should collect data according to that allotted time. Okay, so if you want to collect a broader study, like if you want to analyze, for example, to conduct in a comparative study of the newspapers of Pakistan in India, or the English newspapers and Urdu newspapers, and you want to take 30 newspapers of English and 30 of Urdu, or 30 Pakistani newspapers and 30 Indian newspapers, then you must first confirm that you have sufficient time to collect the data and to analyze the data, because sometimes collecting the data takes a lot of time. Okay, and as far as analyzing the data, so that is more time consuming, particularly if you look at the modern approaches such as corpus based discourse analysis. So over there you will have to utilize a lot of time and a lot of energy as well as space, okay, to analyze the data. So you must first confirm that you have got sufficient time and sufficient space for collecting the data and for analyzing all the data and for writing the results. So this is the criteria, these are the criteria which a discourse analyst must confirm, must fulfill in order to conduct, to carry out a practical discourse analysis study. If you think that you fulfill this criteria, then you must conduct a research study in the field of discourse analysis or in the field of critical discourse analysis. So if you want to carry out such kind of research study, you will have to go through these steps. Step number one, choosing a research topic. Number two, posing a research question or research questions, establishing the context, preparing and coding the source materials, preliminary reading or action orientation, collecting and examining linguistic and discursive devices, understanding and interpreting the data, presenting the data, and stating conclusions. You will have to go through these 9 steps if you want to collect a research study, if you want to conduct or carry out a research study in the field of discourse analysis or critical discourse analysis. So let's start with the first one, choosing a research topic. how to select a research topic, how to choose a research topic, and where to choose a research topic from. Okay, we have got multiple sources from which we may select a research topic for our own research study, for our study of discourse analysis and critical discourse analysis. I have mentioned only four here, okay, four sources. The first source is theories. If you look at the field, the theoretical knowledge of discourse analysis or critical discourse analysis, we'll find hundreds of theories proposed by the various, practitioners and experts people in the field. Like, we have already discussed theories like the three-dimensional model of normal Fairclough, if you remember. Okay, the three-dimensional model. We have also talked about the uh, concept of the model and theory of us and them, which is proposed by Van Dyke. Okay, we have talked about certain theories of conversational analysis, such as error and repair, okay, adjacency pairs and insertion sequences, simultaneous speech and overlapping, okay, error and repair, turn taking and turn allocation. So many theories of conversational analysis we have discussed so far. Apart from this, there are certain theories regarding discourse analysis as well. Like, we have talked about theme, rhyme, and thematic progression, cohesion and coherence in a text. We have got, various models for genre analysis, for analyzing a particular genre. Like, we have got the theories proposed by Paul Bhatia. I'll share the book with you people after the lecture. Okay, Bhatia has proposed theories for analyzing the abstract of research papers. He has proposed models for analyzing the genre of the introduction of research thesis, the literature review chapter, data collection. He has proposed models for analyzing the genre of applications, like when we write applications, job applications to various organizations for job. So he has proposed certain models for such applications as well. So many models he has proposed. Apart from this, we have got the model of Leach and Short. Okay, um, a checklist of grammatical and lexical categories. Okay, that is basically related to stylistic analysis, but we may utilize that theory in discourse analysis as well. Uh, to cut it short, like, we have got hundreds of theories, and we may, if we read the theory and we find the theory appealing, okay, we find it interesting, we may simply take that theory and we may apply it somewhere. As I have taught you certain theories, and many of you have taken those theories, and you are now, carrying out your research studies, your final thesis in the field of critical discourse analysis based on those theories. Now, so that is simple. Like, when you come across a theory and you find the theory interesting, you may simply take that theory and you may apply it on a piece of discourse. So that is one source for choosing a research topic. Another source is personal experience. You may select a research topic based on your own personal experience. What sort of personal experience? For example, if you are watching uh, a TV program, and you come to know that certain power relations are produced and reproduced in that piece of discourse, in that program, in that speech of a politician, you may you may carry out a research study on that topic. Okay, similarly, if you go somewhere to a particular place and you come to know about the discursive ways the people are using over there, and the representation of their ideologies in that discourse, you may simply take that discourse and you may apply a theory on it, and you may carry out your research study in the field of DA and CDA. Okay, personal experience. Based on personal experience, you may select hundreds and thousands of topics. Like, you are studying a magazine, for example, you are studying a novel such as a passage to India, for example, okay, or to the lighthouse, you are reading a novel, and you come to know that a particular kind of power relation are there in that inculcated, or presented, represented, produced, or reproduced in that particular discourse. You may take that discourse as your text, okay, and you may conduct a research study. You may choose your topic based on that particular discourse, okay. So this is how, based on your own personal experience, you may select a research topic. Replication research. Replication simply means, let me tell you again, I mentioned it earlier as well, that these points are the concern of research methodology, okay. But as per the need of the topic, I'm discussing these points with you. Replication Replication simply means that if a person has conducted, a researcher has conducted a research study on a group of people at one place, you may, and in one era, one time, you may take that very same research study, very same aspect, and you may carry it out somewhere else, in on the people of another location, okay, on the people of different culture, for example, okay. So this is what we call replication research. I give you the example of the research study which my colleague had conducted on the gender positioning in KPK, or in Pashtun society, in the academic setting of Pashtun society. But that research study was carried out in the University of Malakand. You may take the very same research study and you may carry it out somewhere in Punjab, in Sindh, Balochistan, or in some other society, okay, in some other culture. In the same way, if you take if you are reading a research paper, and that research paper is based on a novel, okay, you may take the very same research study and you may apply it, you may replicate it somewhere else. Like you may take another novel, okay, like that. For example, if you are reading research paper which is related to a critical discourse analysis in an English novel, I mean a novel English written by an English person, American or British person, or Australian novelist, you may take the very same concept and you may apply it here in Pakistan, and you may carry out that research study on the text, on the novel written by a Pakistani writer. Okay, so this is what we call replication research. You need to confirm that whether the same results exist in another area as well, and in another time as well, or not. Then we have suggested research. This is very simple. When we are reading a research paper or research thesis particularly, so at the end of the research paper or research thesis, we'll find heading like suggested research, or recommendations for future research, recommendations for future researchers, recommendations for further research studies. Such kind of titles are usually given, okay. So over there, the researchers have suggested, they have recommended certain topics, usually based on the delimitations of their study, okay. Like the areas which are left over in their research work, they usually suggest that topic and they leave those topics for the future researchers, okay. So while studying while reading a research paper or research thesis conducted in the field of DA or CDA, you may go to the very end, and over there you will find 3, 4, or 5 suggestions, recommendations for further research. So you may take you may choose a research topic from there. These are the various sources from which we may select a research topic for ourselves, okay. Moving to the second stage. Now when we are done with the selection of a research topic, and we have already selected a research topic, for example, then we have to pose research questions, okay. uh, Research questions are a must for critical discourse analysis. And discourse analysis, what you need to do is to to mold your research topic into research questions, okay. And research questions actually let the reader know that what is your research all about. Like here are certain examples I have quoted. How is our understanding of health shaped by various medical and psychological discourses. Nowadays, in the era of COVID-19, how is our understanding of health shaped by various medical discourses and psychological discourses? This is a research question. Okay, if you want to explore the role of discourses uh, in shaping our mind and shaping our understanding of health. Okay, similarly, the research topics which I have suggested to you, the assignments which I have given to you, here are two research questions related to those assignments. In what way do the Geo TV channel and the ARY TV channel differ to reproduce their ideologies? Okay, then what discursive strategies do the anchor persons of these TV channels use to represent their opposing ideologies? So such kind of research questions may be posed. Okay, if you want to explore the, for example, Islamophobia, the topic which we have been discussing since the very first day of this semester, if you remember. Okay, Islamophobia, the dominance of the Western people in the the American people particularly, and the subordination and marginalization of the Eastern people, of the Muslims of the world, uh, Muslims of the entire world. So you may, if your topic is about Islamophobia, that for example, the resistance of Islamophobia in the speeches of Imran Khan, a critical discourse perspective. So if that is your research topic, for example, you may pose certain research questions. You may say, for example, how does Imran Khan resist the Western ideology of Islamophobia in his discourses and his speeches? Okay, you may pose another question, for example, what discursive strategies does Imran Khan use to resist the anti-Islamic ideas of the Western people? So this kind of research questions may be posed. Okay, keep in mind all your research questions must be related to, very closely related to your research topic. Okay, now when you're done with posing the research questions, then there comes the third stage of doing discourse analysis, that is establishing the context. Establishing the context means collect information about the producer of the discourse, including his or her personal, educational, regional, political, and ideological background. Okay, who is the producer of the discourse? What is his personal background? What is his educational background? What is his or her regional background? What is his or her religious background? What is his or her political background and ideological background? Now ideological background is a must. Okay, then the rest of the things, they may vary. Okay, because if your discourse, if you're analyzing a non-political discourse, then you may or may not have to go for the political background of the discourse producer. But still, usually we have to take all these things into consideration while getting information, collecting information about the background of the producer of the discourse. Then where the data is produced, data means the discourse or discourses which we are analyzing is discourse analysts. So where the data is produced, when, where and why is it produced, and for whom is it meant to be consumed? Okay, this is about the consumer of the discourse. So you need to talk about, you need to find out the discourses, that when were those discourses produced, where were they produced, how were they produced, why were they produced? Okay, and for whom, like who are going to consume those discourses. Simply you may talk about the target audience of, you need to explore the target audience, their background. Okay, their educational background, their religious background, their political background, their ideological background. You need to know about all these things. Then the third point in establishing the context is, and the most important point as well, the socio-political, the socio-economic, in the socio-historical background of the discourse. The socio-political, socio-economic, and socio-historical background of the discourse. For example, if we take the if you are analyzing, for example, the speech of Imran Khan, which he delivered in the UN General Assembly in the United States, okay, regarding Islamophobia, and the ways he uh, 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 defended these people, the Muslim people of the world, and the way he resisted the Islamophobic ideology of the Western people. Okay, so you need to be clear about, you need to have the knowledge regarding the socio-political, the socio-economic, the socio-cultural, and the socio-historical background of that discourse. Okay, so again, yes, moving to the fourth point, the production process of the discourse. Here you need to keep in mind the various means and sources for the use for the production of that discourse, like whether the discourse which you are analyzing, that is a face-to-face conversation, that is a telephonic conversation, that is a text, or such as a novel, that is fiction, that is some other genre, whether that is newspaper discourse or television news discourse, okay, that is monologue, dialogue, or multilogue. You need to find out the source, the means of the discourse, the channel of the discourse, simply you may say. So the last one, the genre of the discourse. Yes, a genre means like the discourse which you are analyzing, whether that is uh, television news, that is that is newspaper articles, newspaper editorials, that is a novel, short story, short fiction, that is a drama, one act play, or what kind of genre is there. It can be, the genre can be, as we have discussed two research papers, the genre can be, the a particular folklore or particular genre of poetry in a particular society, or even the proverbs used in a particular society. So you need to be clear about the genre as well. So these are the points which you need to make clear, you need to take into consideration while establishing the context of the discourse. Okay, uh, you need to be clear about the discourse producer, the discourse consumer, the channel and means of the discourse, the genre of the discourse, and you need to be clear about the socio-political, socio-economic, socio-historical, and socio-cultural background of that discourse. That is what simply that is what we call the context of the discourse. So you need to establish the context of the discourse. um, then moving to the last point for today's topic, today's lecture, that is preparing and coding the source materials. The rest of the points we'll discuss in the next lecture, inshallah. So preparing and coding the source materials, it includes steps and techniques like transcribing oral visual materials into written form. Coding means codification of the discourse, simply codification of the source material. Source material is actually the data, or it is the discourse which you're analyzing. So if the discourse is in oral form, you need to transcribe it into a written form. Usually let's suppose if you're analyzing the speeches of politicians, so the speeches are, most of the time they are available on internet, on Google, in written form. So you may take the written form of those discourses. Let's suppose if you're analyzing a discourse which is available only in oral form, then you need to codify it, you need to transcribe it into written form. Like I shared with you a research idea 2 days ago, related to the speeches of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and that another guy, Murad Saeed. So those speeches are available on YouTube only in spoken form, in oral form. So if you want to carry out your research study on that topic and the comparative analysis of both the speeches, you will have to transcribe those texts, those discourses, into written text, into written form. So similarly, if you're the discourse which you want to analyze, if that discourse is in visual form, then again you need to codify it, you need to write it down. Like we have already talked about, and we have analyzed two advertisements One was related to a particular cooking oil, and another was also related to another kind of cooking oil. One video advertisement taken from a television uh, channel, which we have analyzed in the very beginning of this semester. That was about a particular kind of hair oil, Dabra hair oil, I think, yes. So in such case as well, you have to transcribe the text. But keep in mind, there are certain techniques for transcribing a text. Like techniques, you have to mention the colors as well. For visual materials, you need to mention the colors, the sizes, the shapes, the various angles from which things have been presented. Uh, uh, Even the movements of the people, if people are moving, like if you want to transcribe a play or drama from oral form, from video form into written one, so you need to write in parentheses the various behavior, the various actions taking place over there, like taking steps, stepping outside, stepping inside, okay, or giving a smile, or getting angry, standing up, sitting down. All these are raising hands. Such kind of things are usually put inside parentheses while transcribing a text into written form. So you must learn the various techniques of transcribing text into written form. So the very first technique is that you must transcribe the text into written form. The second step uh, that is used in preparing encoding the source material, that is printing the text on paper. Okay, if you have got the text in computer system and your laptop personal computer, you want to analyze it from there, it's okay, it's fine. But better if you could print it out, because things are best analyzed in written form. If you have got a piece of discourse, a speech, or the speeches of politicians or newspaper articles or any kind of discourse, if you have got those discourses in written form in front of you, you may easily highlight things, you may easily underline things, you may make the use of different markers, different highlighters, different kind of symbols and signs, okay. So different kind of numbers. So you need to print your discourse, the text, on a piece of paper, okay. um, but as I told you that printing printed material is they are best analyzed. Okay, they help us. They assist the process of analysis. For example, if you are using the technique proposed by the model proposed by Van Dyke, so if you are analyzing that technique, okay, if you are analyzing a discourse with the help of that theory, you have got, for example, 10 indicators you want to use. You want to look for in a discourse, so you may give numbers to all those indicators, like indicator number one, for example, actor description, uh, indicator number two, authority, indicator number three, evidentiality, indicator number four, disclaimer. So whenever you find that there is, an example of disclaimer in the text you are analyzing, you may simply write four over there. Four, like on number four, you have got disclaimer, for example. So such kind of symbols and signs might be used there in written form. So the second step is that you need to print the material, okay, then digitizing or giving numbers to paragraphs, sentences, in lines, etc. It's also a very good step, okay, in codifying the source materials and preparing the source materials. If you give numbers to paragraphs, or if there is a short discourse, and particularly in case of conversational analysis, you need to give numbers to the lines or to the sentences, okay. Like for example, if you want to mention in the discussion that your topic, your example, you want to give example from the text, so you may simply, as example, you may say, for example, in sentence number 39, uh, uh, one of the characters says, okay, Mr. or Mrs. X says. So in line number 39, so then you need not to mention the entire line, okay. Simply you may refer to the line by giving the number of, by mentioning the number of the line, the number of the sentence, or the number of the paragraph even. So if you have got a long discourse, you may divide the discourse into paragraphs, into lines, into sentences, and you should give them numbers. If you give them numbers, then This thing will assist you, it will help you during your analysis. Okay, then the last one, that is generating a corpus, but it is in case of corpus based discourse analysis only, or corpus based critical discourse analysis only. Corpus is the mod, corpus analysis is the modern technique of discourse analysis, critical discourse analysis, stylistic analysis. Corpus is actually a large database, and for example, if you want to find out a particular feature, linguistic feature or linguistic features in um, 15 English novels, for example. Now, it is not possible for an individual, for a human being, to look for all those features in all those novels individually. I think it will take years. It may take years, rather, it may take decades even. Like analyzing, looking for example, if you, in a theory, if you have got 15 or 20 features and you want to look for all those features in 20 novels, now it's not possible for you then. So what you need to do, you need to go for a corpus-based discourse analysis, or corpus-based stylistic analysis, corpus-based critical discourse analysis. You need to inject or insert that data into a computer database, and that database helps you to find out those features and all those pieces of the text you have inserted into that database, like all the 20 novels, for example. Or you may take 100 newspaper articles, 200 newspaper articles, 200 newspaper editorials, 100 short stories, multiple kind of examples might be there. So if you want to go for such kind of corpus based discourse analysis, then you need to generate a corpus as well. And generating a corpus also is then a part of preparing, encoding the source material. Now when your material is completely ready, like your discourses, you have, if you have got written material already, that is fine. But if your discourses are in oral form, you have to transcribe into written form. If they are in visual form, again you have to transcribe into written form. If your discourses are in short form, you need to print them down, you need to print them out. Okay, you need to give numbers to the paragraphs, sentences, and lines. And if you want to go for corpus based discourse analysis or corpus based critical discourse analysis, then you have to generate a corpus as well. Now if you are done with all these steps, okay, your data is properly codified and it is well prepared, and now you are ready to start the analysis. Then you have to give it a preliminary reading or the action orientation, and then you have to collect and examine the linguistic devices, the discursive devices, and the rhetorical devices, rhetorical feature in those discourses. Okay, um, but then you will have to understand and interpret those discursive devices, discursive strategies, linguistic devices, and rhetorical devices. Okay, and then you will present the data, and at the end you will you will draw the conclusions. Today we talked about criteria for doing discourse analysis, the stages of doing discourse analysis, then how to choose a research topic in the field of discourse analysis or critical discourse analysis, posing research questions, establishing the context, and preparing encoding the source material, preparing encoding the text, okay, the discourses. So these are the points which we discussed in today's lecture. And the coming lecture, inshallah, we'll talk about the preliminary reading and collecting and examining linguistic and discursive devices, understanding and interpreting the data, presenting the data, and stating conclusion. These are the topics we'll discuss in the coming class, inshallah. Stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.